Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Anson here, and we're back with a brand new video. So today we're going to be going over Express, and we're going to be building our own API, and we're going to be adding some authentication so that only authorized users will be able to actually access it. And we're going to be using JSON Web Tokens for that. So before I get started into this project, I want to actually talk about what exactly is an API, right? API stands for Application Portal Interface, and it pretty much allows you to, build your applications. So most of the time, most popular APIs are usually like web APIs that serve, data. So let's say, for example, a lot of applications, one being the just say a weather app, right? Most weather apps, or I mean, if not all, weather apps are getting their data from some weather API. Some company is hosting that data and it's updating it, right? Whether it be daily, every hour, every second, whatever, they're updating that data, and then that data is being sent to developers, right? The developers, right, process that data on the backend servers, and then they do something with it, whatever they want to do. They cache it, blah, blah blah. Then they send it back to the client. I mean, typically, the client could also cache the data, but again, it's more of an implementation thing. But yeah, that's pretty much the standard. I mean, there's it obviously gets more complex when you add authentication and other stuff, but we're just going to build a simple API to get our hands dirty, understand how it works. Okay, so let's go ahead and just close this out for now. We won't need Discord. I already made a directory already called Express Tutorial API, so I'm going to cd into it, and you can see it's empty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to initialize this repository with npm. So I get a package.json file. So it creates this package.json file. It's kind of like a manifest file, or the most important part is it lists all of our dependencies for this project, because we are going to be using a couple. We're going to be using Express, so we're going to do npm install Express. We're also going to be using JSON Web Token, so JSON Web Token, and we're also going to be using a body parser as well. And I think that should be it. We're going to do dash-save. So then when we do that, what's going to happen is it's actually going to create this node modules folder, and inside that package.json file, you're going to see the dependencies key, which maps to an object, and all of these are dependencies for our project. So let's just say, for example, if I wanted to move this project and deploy it somewhere else, I would not want to upload my node modules folder because it's a really beefy folder. It's a lot of space, right? You can't really see here, but if let's say rm node modules, right? All I want to do is I just want to upload my project and the package.json file. I don't want to upload the node modules file because it could be a really big folder depending on how many dependencies you have. But typically what you do is you upload your app, and then most of the time, like something like AWS or Heroku, they typically just run the command npm install, installs all dependencies for your app, and then it handles everything for you. But if you're deploying it on your DigitalOcean server, for example, you would move your project to your server, and then you'd run npm install. And what that will do is that will install all the dependencies just like that, and it'll create the node modules folder so your project has those dependencies. Okay, so let's just open up Visual Studio Code. We're going to be using Visual Studio Code to write our app, and this thing is frozen. Damn, I missed my computer. Let's see, why is that giving me problems? Let's try again. Yeah, perfect. I love it. I love it so much. Oh, finally. All right, perfect. All right, great. Okay, so let's go and create. I want to be organized. So let's just create a folder and let's just call it source. You don't have to, but I mean, actually, let me just delete this. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to create a file called app.js, and I'm going to do const express, and what we're going to do is we're going to require the express module into our app. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to initialize our express app, and we're going to do that by saying const app equals express parentheses. We're basically calling the toppable function that's part of the express module. This will actually initialize our express app for us. Every single thing that we want to do to interact with the express module will be done using this app variable, this app constant. So if I want to serve GET requests, like if I want to have, if I want to handle GET requests, I'm going to do app.get, and then I'm going to specify the routes. We're just going to use the default /, and then we're going to pass in a callback function, which takes in 2 parameters. It takes in the request handler and the response handler, okay, or the request object and the response object. And if you've worked with these kind of frameworks before, like Express is a web framework. If you've worked with these kind of before, you'll know that every single time you make some kind of HTTP request, there's going to be a request and a response object. And the request object contains information like headers, authorization, things like that, session IDs, blah, blah, blah. Response typically is something that you send back as a response, either a status code, JSON data, HTML, whatever. Okay. So, for example, let's just send back a simple JSON message. We're going to say message hello world. Save that. And the last thing we're going to do here is we're going to define a port. We're going to say process.env.port, and I'll explain what I'm doing here, or 3000. So what I'm doing here is I'm basically defining a constant called port. And I'm saying, okay, listen, I want it to use the available port that's in the environment variable port. Because let's say, for example, if you're deploying your app to Amazon Web Services, there's a chance, like there's no way you're probably going to get port 3000 available because it's probably using it already. So what it'll do is it'll look inside the environment variable and it'll basically give it whatever port that is available first. And if that port is available, then it'll try to give it 3000. Okay, but in our local development, it's going to be port 3000 unless you set an environment variable. Okay, and we're going to do app.listen all the way in the bottom, and we're going to say port, and we're going to just simply do a console.log server is up and running. All right, perfect. Now we're going to use something called NodeMon. So every single time I save and make changes and save our app, what NodeMon does is it watches those files and it'll restart it every single time. So you don't have to, keep, exiting the process and restarting over again. NodeMon will take care of that for you. So if I go ahead and save, NodeMon is literally just going to start restarting due to changes, starting node app.js, just like that. So let's open up a localhost 3000. Localhost 3000. And we get message hello world, just like that. So this is the start to our API. You can also define other routes as well. You can say app.get, hello rec.res, and you can send back whatever you want, right? You can send HTML, so we can do something like res.send or res.send, and we can do something like hello world. Should work like that. And let's go to hello. Just like that. You can send HTML, you can send files. So let's say new file. What do I want to call this? My friends.txt. Let's just say Anson, Jack, Jared. Save that, and let's send the file. Send file, and then we can pass in that file just like that. Now let's refresh. Path must be absolute or specific root to res.send file. That's an epic fail. Friends.txt is right here. Oh man. I think we need to use something like cons path equal require path. I just want to show you guys this. You don't necessarily need to do it, but in the case you might actually need it, then yeah, path.join their name friends.txt. Let's try this. Maybe this might work. Oh. There we go. There we go. Perfect. I've never done it before. That's why I messed up. But hey, we learned something new. I learned something new at least. But okay, so basically we're using the path module and we're just saying join the current directory name. So that was what you just saw there, right? Let's get rid of this. The current directory name is users and send documents express tutorial API, and then we have to add the /, and there we go. So I can send a text file, I can also send JSON, I can send anything I want. You can also send an image too. I think it'll try to download it as well. But yeah, hopefully that makes sense. You can do whatever you want basically, right? And we can also handle post requests, but we're not going to do that right now. We're just going to do get requests. Okay, so let's go ahead and define a couple routes. All right, and I'll explain what I'm going to be doing, so don't worry. So we're going to create a folder called routes, and in here I'm just going to say, let's see, so I want our API to serve back static, so typically the API, your API is going to serve data that's coming from a database. In a real world application, the data is going to be coming from a database, right? Majority of the time, like rarely, like unless you cache the data, then it'll come from memory, but most of the time it's going to come from a database. So let's just write a simple API that serves data about I don't know, just basic stuff, right? Well, let's see. Let's say what do I want to send back? I guess we could do I guess articles, right? Articles, that's typical. Let's just do articles.js. All right. So what we're gonna do here is since we're creating this in a completely different file, we're gonna be using the express router. Okay. So const router equals require express, and watch what I'm gonna do here. I'm gonna say dot router, just like that, and parentheses. Okay, so a router is basically like a mini application in your Express app, because you don't want to handle all of your routes in just one file. You want to break it up into different subsets, right? So let's say, for example, if I want the articles route to handle everything that has to do with articles, whether it's posting, updating, getting, etc. I want all that to be in its own separate mini application, and all of the users route will be handled in the users route. Okay, so I don't want to have to do it all in here. I want to do it in separate different files. Okay, so we're going to define the router over here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to say module.export equal router. So I need to export the router, and inside our app.js, what we're going to do is we're going to require that route so that we can actually register it. Okay, so we're going to say const articles route equal require. We're going to do routes and articles just like that. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say app.use, and I'm going to say let's see, articles. So this is going to specify the routes, so I want to use this route with everything that's inside here. Whoops, inside articles router, just like that. Or it should be articles route, not router, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, so let's get rid of all of this first. Okay, so let's handle our get request over here now. So let's say router.get /rec res, and let's see, let's just do let's just define some simple data. So let's just say const articles equal, this is going to be an array name, let's see, I don't know, Powerball winners announced, and then the date is going to be, can I do new date, and let's see, text, and let's just do, let me get some lorem ipsum. Okay, lorem ipsum. Oh, it's good for text holder. Let's just generate some lorem ipsum. Copy, and let's just do text, and let's do that. All right, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna say res.send, and we're gonna say JSON, let's see, articles. Okay, so let's go back to our route. So now notice how if I refresh, it's gonna say cannot get hello because that route is not defined. But if I go ahead and do articles, notice how it's gonna send this array of objects, and these objects are articles. Okay, we can also modify the date to date string like that and save that so it looks more better. You can do whatever you want, but that's basically the gist of it, right? And obviously I can have an arbitrary amount of articles here, but again, typically these things are coming from a database. Okay, you're not going to obviously send data from like raw data like that. It's typically going to be coming from a database. Now, before I even get further into this project, I want to explain why this is important, right? Why are APIs important? So again, let's say for example, if you want to write some kind of application like a blogging platform, like an application that you can write blogs and stuff. On the front end is going to be responsible for displaying the data, right? The front end is going to be responsible for showing all the articles, right? And the front end is also going to be responsible for sending data to the back end. So every single time a user wants to create a new article, they can, and once they click that submit button, it's going to send it to the server. The server is going to add that article to the database, and it's going to save it, so the next time the user refreshes the page, they should be able to see the article. Okay, but the reason why we need this API is because we need our data to come from somewhere, right? So on the front end, we need to request our API, our endpoint, right? The localhost a localhost colon 3000/articles. We need to request this endpoint, and we need to get all of the articles that are visible, that are available on the database. Okay, so obviously again we can have as many articles as we want. So let's just say kangaroos on the loose dates. Let's just say new dates to date string text, and let's get some more lorem ipsum. Let's see, paste that, and we can have a couple more. Again, doesn't really matter, but just don't think of this as like it's, even though I'm actually sending it from an in-memory, like an array that's stored in memory, right? Just pretend that it's being sent from a database, right? So when you make a request to this route, this route is going to call the database. It's going to get that data. Once it gets that data, the backend, which is over here, you can do whatever you want with it. You can process it, you can validate it, whatever. Once you're done with the processing, you're going to send it back to the front end, and the front end is going to display this data however they want. Okay, and obviously you don't want to display data like this, right? You want to take this data and you want to make it look nice, like make it look like it's an actual blog, right, or an actual article, or a news site or whatever. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. And yeah, and like I said, with the router, it works the same way with the regular app itself. You can also define other routes. So let's say if I do router.get, let's say notice how I'm doing the / here and not articles, because what's happening is every single route that starts with articles is going to map to here. Okay, so if I want to just do articles with just articles, we're going to be handling it like this. If I want to do articles, let's just say today, and let's just say this route would get us all of the articles that are listed today or that were posted today, right? You do today res, and then you would just do res.send, and then today's articles, like that. And again, you'd go to the database, you'd fetch articles that are that match today's date, then you do whatever you want on the back end, process it, whatever, and then yeah. So if I do, so notice how right now if I do today, you cannot get today, right? But if I do articles / today, today's articles, we're in this route now, because when I try to do just today, it was trying to access it over here in the app.js. Okay, it's not, but this today route is a suffix of the /articles. It's part of the articles route. So in order to access it, we need to do articles / today. It's like that. All right, so yeah, now let's go ahead and add some authentication to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to be using JSON Web Tokens. So I think, let's see, we can do that over here, since we can say const JSON or const JTPT equals JSON or require JSON Web Token. Okay, now JSON Web Token, if you don't know too much about it, I would highly recommend looking it up and reading about it. It's basically an OAuth. It's a way to authorize users and stuff. It's really cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this module to protect our route. So we only want people who are authenticated to actually be able to access it. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create another route. So I'm going to say users, and this route is going to handle everything that has to do with logging in. Okay, so in this route, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to say const router equals require express dot router. Okay, the same thing I did it in articles.js. I'm doing it in here. We're going to do module exports equal router. And I'm also going to, let's see, const JWT equals require JSON Web Token. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a couple mock users. So I'm just going to const users. Let's just say, let's see, this is going to be an array of user objects. I mean, you could make a user model and put that in here, but we're not going to do that. Just say username. Let's just say Anson. Password is equal to test, and let's create a couple more. So just pretend these users are saved in like some kind of database, either MySQL or MongoDB. Let's just say Daryl test1 and then John test2, just like that. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say router.get slash, and we're going to say rec res. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to say in the app.js, I'm going to bring in that route so we can actually use it, register it. So we're going to say user route equals require routes users right there. And to register it, we do app.use/user and then user routes, just like that. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to define, let's see, I'm going to say /users/authenticate. And inside here, what I want to do is, well, typically, again, so inside this route over here, what you'd want to do is you'd want to go into the database. You want to check, you want to validate the user's credentials. Because what we're going to do is pretend we have a form and we're sending form data from the front end to the back end to this route over here. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that the credentials are correct. So we're going to check the username and password and anything else that you want. Once it's validated, what you're going to do with the JWT is you're going to sign their credentials. You're going to sign the payload that they sent, and it's going to be encrypted. It's going to be, it's going to be like some kind of a really long, hashed string, and it has information that can be decoded, that contains, the user information, which I'll show you, later on. But what we're going to do is we're going to say, let's see, let user data equal rec.body. Before we do that, though, we need to use the body parser. So let's go ahead and do const body parser equals require body parser. Okay, app.use body parser.json. This will handle everything so that we get everything in proper format. So app.use body parser.url encoded extended will be false. Okay. All right. So now that we have body parser, let's go ahead and go into our routes over here. And it's console.log user data. And this is actually not a GET request. This should be a POST request, because whenever you log in, you're making a POST request. We're gonna open up Postman and we're gonna make a simple request to this route. Over here, and but yeah, again, body parser is a middleware, so that what it does is it parses incoming requests in the middleware, so that way everything will be attached to the rec.body, so it's easier for you to actually get the form data itself, just in case you guys didn't know. So if you didn't have body parser, I wouldn't be able to just directly, reference rec.body like that. Okay, so let's make a post request to localhost, that's 3000 /user. I think it's user, right? User and authenticate. So right now I'm just going to pass on a body. It's going to be xwww form URL encoded. Just say your username, hello. And just send this data right now. And you're going to see our server saw it and we're getting it and we're console logging it out right over here. Username, hello. Okay, but let's actually, do something with it. So what we're going to do is we're going to check this array. So again, these are just mock users. Typically, you'd have a database and you would find the user by their username. You would check their passwords, make sure it matches. Okay, and once it matches, you can confirm that, yes, they are who they are, and we can give them, the JSON Web Token. We can encrypt it, and then we can encrypt the information and then send it back to them. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. If users.sum, what we're going to do is we're going to say sum user, where user.username equals user data dot username, and let's see, user dot password is equal to user data dot password. So if that's true, then they are authenticated. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say jwt dot sign, and we're going to pass in the payload. So that's going to be user data. So that's their credentials. Okay, we're going to pass in the secret or private key. By default, it uses a HMAC algorithm. You could generate, I think, a key, which I think would be much more safer. But again, there are other options for signing. But for now, we're just going to do my secret key. And then you can pass in, again, other options. You can set expires in, and let's just say 1 hour. And yeah, a callback function, error. And let's see, token. And let's just say if error, throw error, console.log token. So let me go back here. Let me actually just get one of my mocks. So Anson and test. So we're going to send this. Typically, pretend this is some form. Okay, your form data sends it similar like this. Right, so if you have this form, you're going to type in your username and password. You're going to click submit. It's going to send that data to this backend. Same way it's doing in Postman. And yeah, let's go and see this. Now you can see we have this token right over here. Okay, so as you can see, what happened was we made a post request to this authenticate route. We checked to make sure that the person was who they said they were. Right, we entered in the correct username and password. We checked in our, quote unquote, database. Right, it's not a database, but it's just a mock users. We checked their username and password. It was correct. If it was not correct, this would have not done anything. Since it was correct, though, we sign. Okay, we sign their credentials. We encrypt it, and then we send back this this token over here. And now we can use this token to access routes on there, but we still have to set that up though. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if error, we're just going to say res dot status code, or res status, actually status code, and there is a specific status code for invalid. Let's see, status code for invalid credentials. I think it's a 401. That's what Google says. So 401, and we're gonna say res.json message invalid credentials, and else we're gonna say res.status code, and I think what is the in status code for authentic authorized? I think that's a no. I know it's not a 401 is unauthorized. I think 200. I think accepted 202. I'm not sure, to be honest, but we're not gonna worry about it for now. But it is good practice to set it though. So we're gonna say res.json message token, and we're gonna say token, just like that. And yeah, let's go ahead and do that, and let's save it. So let's send our data back. Now I get this token, and I can use this token to make requests. These are valid tokens. So on the server, we're going to need to verify these tokens, and if it's verified, then we're going to be good. We can access our routes, and we're going to need to verify it using a middleware function. So let's say if I do test 1, you're going to see that it's going to say invalid credentials, or what happened. What's going on? I passed in. Oh, that's right, because it's false. So we're gonna do res.status code 41 and res.json error invalid credentials. Save that, and let's try again. Send. You're gonna see the 401 unauthorized invalid credentials, just like that. But if I type in test 1, okay, and now we are good to go. So typically, you'd only want to do this once. Every single time you authorize yourself as the user, it's just going to give you a new token every single time. But you really only need to authorize yourself once. Okay, that's all that matters. So now that we are authenticated, what we need to actually do is we need to actually use that token and make requests to our routes. Okay, so we want to protect all of our articles routes. Okay, so only authorized users with a valid token, valid verified token, can actually access it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to define some function inside our articles.js file. We're going to say, let's see, function verify token. And this is going to take rec, res, and next. Just like that. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to take in that token. Okay, we're going to check. Now, just to make sure, this token that we are passing in is a bearer token. That's the type of token it is. So if you go on Postman, authorization, bearer token, you're going to pass that in here just like that. And let's target the articles route real quick. So let's go over to articles. And let's just make a simple request. Right now, it's going to send back, post. Let's do a get, actually. Get. Right now, it's going to send us back our data. But again, we want to validate them first. So if they are not validated, they cannot access our data. Okay, so we're going to need to verify the token. So inside this verify token function, we need to check for one thing. We need to check a couple things. We need to check the headers. We need to make sure the headers has a bearer token. Okay, and we need to verify the token. So 3 things. So what we're going to do is we're going to say if rec.headers dot authorization, or actually wait a minute, hold on. It's not log rec.headers. What we need to do, since this is going to be a middleware function, we're going to need to pass this in as a parameter inside the get request, inside the get function, just like this. Okay, so when we make that call to this endpoint, it's going to call this function, and then after it's done, we call next, and it's going to go back to where we were originally. So let's just send another request, and you're going to see we have printed out the request, request headers object from the verified token function, and we can see that we did pass in that bearer token right over here. Okay, so we're going to say rec.headers.authorization, like that, and let's try sending it again. There we go, bearer. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to say if rec.headers.authorization.starts with bearer. So if it starts with bearer, right, this authorization key over here, if the value of this key starts with bearer, the string, right? If it starts with bearer, that means they have a valid token, because our token is supposed to be a bearer token. So if it is, we want to extract that token. Okay, so let's just say let token equals, say rec.headers.authorization slice. We're gonna do hold on, I think it's supposed to be, hold on, splice, I think. JS. I think slice, yeah. Slice 7 for 7 characters, including the white space. Let's log that token out and let's send another request. There we go, perfect. So we're basically just slicing the first 7 characters. So that's bare and in the space, and we get the actual token itself. So now that we have the token, we need to verify the token. So we're going to say JWT verify. We're going to pass in that token, and we're going to pass in our secret. Our secret was my secret key. And we don't need any options. But there are a lot of things you could do with it. But you can check the docs for that. So if error, we're gonna say our status. Hold on. If error res dot JSON error invalid credentials or invalid token. Else, we're gonna say rec.token equal token. And we're gonna call next, and next is gonna go over here. So let's try that out and see what happens. Hold on. Now let's pass in an invalid token. So notice how right now I just changed the value of the token. I added a character in there, and I sent it, and that's an invalid token. But if I go back, if I pass in the actual valid token, it's going to give us the data that we want. So this is how you're going to protect your routes, right? Every single time they make a request, you call this verify token function, and you verify the token that they passed in. If they don't specify a token, they're not going to get the data, okay? And same thing with today. What we're going to do with today, because right now, if we go to today, right, you're going to see that this is not protected. No, it's articles/today. This route is not protected. Okay, we need to protect it, so we're going to add in our middleware function verify token. You're going to save it. Okay, we're going to pass in our token over here. Remember, it's a bearer token. This is important. It's a bearer token. Send. Okay, so what happens is we first try to access this today route, right? We go into the middleware function verify token. It takes 3 parameters, rec, res, and next. Okay, so we don't need this console log. So what we're doing is we're checking if the headers, right, if it has the authorization header, we're going to check if the string starts with bearer, right? Because again, the headers is a JSON object, right, and it has a bunch of key value pairs, right? Authorization is one of the keys, and it maps to a string, usually the token. Okay, but since it's a bearer tokens start with bearer, space, and then the actual token itself. We check to see if it starts with bearer. If it does, we're going to extract the token from that string. Okay, then we're going to verify that token. And once we verify it, we're going to, do whatever we want with it. Right? If the token is invalid, we're just going to send them a message that says invalid token. If it is a valid token, then we can go ahead and serve them the data that they asked for because they are authorized. Okay, and you can also do other things too. Let me just go ahead and do console log decoded because this does actually decode the token. So if I go send console log, you can see that I have all my credentials in here. It was encrypted inside this this token over here. Once I decoded it, I have the original data back again. Okay, so yeah, JWT is pretty nice because you can use it for authorization. You can use it for limiting your API access, all that kind of stuff. You can also set expirations as well. And it's important to understand this because a lot of APIs, for example, the Spotify API uses tokens. So whenever you want to make requests, you need an access token and a refresh token. Okay, but we're not going to go into that for now. So hopefully this whole video made sense. Again, hopefully it helped you guys understand more about APIs itself and authorization. And if it did, definitely, leave a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe to my channel for more videos, and definitely join my Discord because I'm always answering questions on my Discord. So is, the other people on the server. I've had this Discord for about, I think 4 or 5 months now, and I'm really happy on what it's turning into because at first, well, right now we're almost at 200 members, and there's people joining every single day, and there's people asking questions, which I love, and there's people answering questions as well. So definitely check it out. I also made some new channels as well. So so it's not just for bot developers. It's actually I'm turning it into everything because I want to do more than just Discord bots. So yeah, again, if you like this video, definitely leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.